All right, so here we have a boat travels upstream for 12 miles in 3 hours and then returns back to where it started in 2 hours, traveling downstream in a local water stream in the area. What is the rate of the boat in still water and the rate of the current? All right, so let's kind of draw a picture here what we have. So we have some kind of a river and the stream is flowing that way. Okay, and we'll call that R. R is going to be rate of stream. Okay. Now, let's say, what else do we need? The rate of the boat. So let's call x equal the rate of boat. So when we have going this way, that's going to be x plus r because we're going to have the speed of the boat plus the speed of the stream. Now, when we're going this way, that's going to be x because it's still going to have a boat going this way, but it's going to be pushing against this. So it's going to be minus r. Okay. So that's kind of the picture we need to draw to kind of get an idea what our rates are. Now, let's see. Let's write out what we know. We know that distance is equal to rate times time. Okay. Now we're traveling the same distance both directions. So we can write two equations for that. We can say 12 is equal to our rate, which way first? Doesn't matter. Let's go, because it said we went this way first. The rate is that way is x minus r times what? Well, that was times time. Well, that took us 3 hours. So that's going to be our first equation. Now our second equation said we're going to return in 2 hours going with it. So that's going to be 12 equals x plus r times 2. Okay. Well, now we need to simplify. We need to distribute, and we need to distribute here. So that gives us 12 equals 3x minus 3r. And here we get 12 equals 2x plus 2r. All right. So let's see here. What can we do? Well, maybe let's multiply the top one by 2, the bottom one by 3, and see what we get. So 36 equals, now that's going to be 6x minus 6r. And on the bottom we'll have 36 equals, that's going to be 6x plus 6r. Well, guess what? Those cancel, which is what we tried to get to happen because we saw that those were opposites. So now we have 36 and 36 is 72 equals, and 6 plus 6 is 12x. Divide by 12. So x is equal to 6. Okay. All right. So we have that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out the that's the rate of the boat, how much the stream is. So now we need to plug that back into one of our first equations. It doesn't matter which one. We can do 12 equals, now we had x is 6 minus r times 3. And so then what we can do is we can say, okay, well, how is that going to be? Well, we can distribute again. 12 equals 18 minus 3r. Subtract 18. So that's going to be a minus 6 equals a minus 3r. Divide by a negative 3. R equals 2. Okay, so R equals 2. And now we're doing miles per hour, it looks like. So this would be miles per hour, miles per hour. All right. So now, does that give us what we would like to have for answers? Does it work out? Okay, well, if we plug in our 6 and 2, 6 minus 2 is 4 times 3 is 12. And here we have 6 plus 2 is 8 times 2 is, that doesn't work. So this is what I did. I tried to make it so I made a mistake somewhere along the way. So then we could see what was wrong with our whole picture here. All right. And so this is one where I tried to get a wrong answer. So that doesn't work. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to think about how are we going to maybe make this a little bit simpler, okay? And so what I'm going to suggest is probably I should have put a blank page in, but I didn't. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase and say, okay, well, we know it didn't work. And now what we need to do is figure out what did we do wrong? And putting all this in here is going to make it really complicated. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start from scratch, and then we'll see where, if we can see where we went wrong. All right, so I think those equations, x minus r and 3 and that 2. So those are okay equations. So there's nothing wrong with those. So it was after we did that where we kind of made a little problem. And what we need to do is, to simplify this, I think my first bet would be I'm going to divide by 3, and I'm going to divide by 3. Here I'm going to divide by 2, and here I'm going to divide by 2. And when I do that, that's going to be 4 equals, and that's x minus r. Here, that's going to be 6 equals x plus r. Okay, those cancel. We get 6 plus 4 is 10 equals, that's going to be 2x. Divide by 2, x equals 5 miles per hour, because we know it's in miles per hour. Now we can plug that back into one of our equations. Now, if we just go ahead and say, okay, well, let's plug it back into here maybe, and we have 6 equals 5 plus r, subtract 5, r equals 1 mile per hour. Okay, so that, remember, is the rate of the stream. That's the rate of the boat. Now, does it work? Okay, well, they're different numbers. They're not 6 and 2, they're 5 and 1. So if we take 5 minus 1, well, that's going to give us what? 4 times 3 is 12. That works. And then we have 5 plus 1 is 6 times 2 is 12. That works. So that's going to be our correct values. And so what we had done is we had multiplied wrong before, and then when we did that and added all the things in there, it just created a problem. And so that was the key issue there. And so this is just a different way to solve the same problem, but I wanted to show you one way where we made a mistake, because we haven't made any mistakes mostly, and I wanted to show you what happens when you make a mistake. They didn't equal down here, okay? But this time when we plugged them in, they did equal, and so we know that those are our correct answers, okay? All right, how about this one? It says there were 203 tickets sold for a volleyball game. For activity card holders, the price was $1.25 each, and for non-card holders, the price was $2 each. The total amount of money collected was $310. How many of each type ticket was sold? All right, well, let's let X and Y, let's let that be equal to card holders, and this be non-card holders. Okay, and so card holders, how many is that? Well, they were $1.25. And the non-card holders were $2 each. So that kind of gives us kind of a remembering how much each one of those were. You don't have to have it on there, but we wanted card holders, non-card holders, and then I just went ahead and attached their prices with them. Well, it says we sold a total of 203 tickets. So that means if we take X plus Y, that should be 203. Now, if I take that price times X, that price times Y, and add them together, I should get 310. So that's what I'm going to do. And that was 310. Okay. Now what I can do is I can solve for one of these and plug it in, or I can multiply by something and then subtract. It doesn't matter. This one I can see that if I plug in value here, solve for y, then I get minus x plus 203. Then I can take that times 2, and then I could simplify there. And maybe that's the way to go. I don't know. We could also do, like I said, elimination. We could multiply that top equation maybe by a -2, add the two equations together, and we'll get a value as well. It doesn't matter which way you go. There's multiple ways you can do each of these problems after you have the equations. So if we do it this way, 1.25x plus 2 times negative x plus 203 equals 310. Don't forget to distribute 1.25x, and then we have a minus 2x, and then plus, and that's going to be 406. equals 310, 0. All right. Now, those two are common, so I'm going to subtract 406. And so now, if I take 2 minus 1.25, I get 0.75x. Now, if I take 406 minus 310, well, that's 6. That's going to be a 96. Okay. And it's negative, so that's the key thing here. Remember, that's negative. And, oh, that's negative as well, so that's a negative here. Okay. Now I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 0.75. And that's the same thing as multiplying or by the reciprocal. So this is really 3/4 multiplied by the reciprocal is 4/3. So if I take 96 times 4/3, 3 goes in here, 32. 32 times 4 is 8, 128. So it looks like X is equal to 128 cardholders. And if I take 203 minus 128, then that should give me the number of these. So that'd be a 5, that'll be a 7. So it should be 75 non-card holders. Okay. So does that add up? Well, does x plus y equal 203? Well, if we have 128 plus 75, that's 13, that's 10, that's 203. Yes, it works for that one. Now what about this one? 1.25x times 128. Well, that's just going to be 128 times 125, and that's a point here. That's 40, that's 14, that's 6, that's be 16, that's 4, 5, and that's a 2, and then we have 8, 2, 1, 0, 10, and that's what, 12, 20, 2, 4, 6, and 1, move it to 160. And then 2 times 75, that's going to give us 150. And so if we add 150 to that, we get 310. And that's what we're supposed to get. Okay, so that is the correct number of each of those holders and non-holders. All right, let's pause there and come back for more.